Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Prophecy Update. As always, it's our desire to bring the events that are happening in the world from a biblical perspective and also a prophetic perspective. So thanks for joining us today. What we want to look at today is what happened last week. Biden had signed an executive order, get this, to explore the creation of a digital currency. Yes, that's right, you're hearing it, that the time has arrived now. We are living in the last days as we have known, and now we're starting to see the implementation of a digital currency. And now Biden in the United States has signed an executive order. Now, again, with an executive order, this could be delayed, this could be fought in court, and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, you know what the Bible declares will happen. One day there will be a digital currency that the Antichrist controls in the tribulation period. But we're now seeing the setup of this, and we're seeing the countries of the world start implementing it. So other countries have implemented a digital currency, and now the United States is toying with the idea of a creation of a digital currency for America. This will eventually morph into a regional currency and then eventually a global currency. But we are now alive and are watching this happen. And so consider us, I guess, it's not something that we desire to see, but we are privileged to see because prophecy predicted this. The Bible predicted this, and we're watching it. A cashless system, a digital one world currency, and a digital economic system. Well, there we go. So you don't have to go far to find this. If you want to read the whole entire document, you go to whitehouse.gov and you go to the briefing room tab, and it'll say this. It'll say President Biden to assign executive order on ensuring responsible development of digital assets. And you can read through it. I'm going to share a little bit about it and talk to you about the future implications for all of us. The statement on the White House website says this executive order outlines the first whole of government strategy to protect consumers, financial stability, national security, and address climate risks. Can you believe that? They've thrown in the climate about this, so it's crazy. Anyway, it goes on to say that digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, and I'll have this on the screen for you, have seen an explosive growth in recent years, they say, surpassing a $3 trillion market cap last November, and up from $14 billion just 5 years prior, they say. Surveys suggest that around 16% of adult Americans, approximately 40 million people, have invested in, traded, and used cryptocurrencies. Over 100 countries are exploring or piloting central bank digital currencies, a digital form of a country's sovereign currency. So what they're saying basically in this little excerpt taken from the executive order is this: look, everyone's doing it. We got to get ahead of this as well, because everyone's doing this. This is where everyone's going. This is the trend, and we don't want to be left behind in this. And so we're going to go explore and perhaps implement a digital currency like these other countries are doing. And basically the idea is that we're way behind on this. Other countries are doing this. 40 million people are using cryptocurrencies. Come on, let's get up with the signs of the times. You see how they're wording that? Again, making the impression that we're behind on this. Okay. They continue on in the executive order, and it states this, and I'll have it on the screen for you. It says this: the rise in digital assets creates an opportunity to reinforce American leadership in the global financial system. Notice what it says: the global financial system. So they're going to link America's digital currency to this global financial system and at the technological frontier, which is, again, digital currency, but also has substantial implications for consumer protection. Oh, it's going to protect you, they say. Financial stability. We won't have these fluctuations in the stock market or anything like that. So it's going to solve that problem. And then it's going to solve national security problems. I don't know how that solves national security problems, but in their narrative, it does. And then climate risk. You see that? They throw the climate in there. I don't know how a digital currency helps the planet. Again, this is all this global warming hoax stuff that they perpetrate on everybody. But they've got to throw that in there because that's part of the narrative. And there's many people out there that they'll be convinced, yeah, going to a digital currency is going to save the planet. And so they throw that in there, and of course people will believe it. He goes on and says, the United States must maintain technological leadership in this rapidly growing space, supporting innovation with mitigating the risks for consumers and businesses, the broader financial system, and the climate. Again, all these risks apparently will just drift away and go away once we have a digital currency. Again, they're creating a false narrative. What risk are you talking about? You know, the risk of speculators, the risk of hedge fund operators that are always cheating. That's never going to stop. But anyway, it's going to save the planet and it's going to give you more stability financially, is how they're selling this. And it goes on and says, and it must play a leading role in international engagement. So America must be involved in this international or global engagement. And then it says this, and global governance. There it is right there, guys. You got it. The issue for this, for the digital currency, they're telling you right here in this passage, they want a global government. And it says the global governance of digital assets consistent with democratic values and U.S. global competitiveness. Now, what are these democratic values? Don't think it's for rights and freedoms that the Bill of Rights gives us and the Constitution. No, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about the democratic values of the Whore of Babylon. What do you mean? They're talking about their values, their morals, not biblical values or morals, their morals. See, because what's going to happen in this digital currency is this, guys. If you don't play ball with their values and their morals, you're going to be held and in not being able to spend money. You're going to be shut down. They're going to be limited on what you can spend on. They'll be able to control your buying and selling based on if you accept the narrative of their values and their morals. If you go against that, they can withhold the currency. They can say, no, you can't buy these things because you don't have the right mindset. It's like what happens in China, the social credit score. Like if you go against the Chinese government, they don't let you fly. They don't let you get on public transportation. You're not able to put your kids in private school. You're not able to buy property or anything like that. So with a digital currency, we already have the test case in China. If you don't comply with these so-called democratic values, which is nothing but Babylonian values, then you're not a player in the system. We won't allow you to do certain things. We may not allow you to travel. We may not allow you to buy certain things like guns and ammo or anything like that. It has far-reaching implications. Their idea is we've got to be a leader in global financial systems. Again, they're telling you what this is for. This is for a global government. Because as you know, the Bible predicts a global government in the tribulation, right? And then that global government will have a global economic system that is cashless. And that's how they can control the buying and selling everybody. You see where this is going, right? And they say, oh, it's going to protect the consumer. It will give you financial stability and national security. It will save the planet. And so that's why it says today in the executive order, President Biden will sign an executive order outlining the first ever whole of government approach. What is this whole of government? It means all of the government's in, all the bureaucracies, all of it will all be in on this digital currency, okay? Addressing the risks and harnessing the potential benefits of digital assets and their underlying technology. Oh, okay, underlying technology, huh? So how do you suspect they're going to use this so-called underlying technology on us? Well, it's not just simply a digital currency. You're going to carry your digital currency on your person because they're already fooling with this idea of putting everything in your banking, everything of your records, medical, health, banking, everything, economics, in your skin with a little RFID chip that they can insert in your skin, in your hand. And you will carry every bit of your digital currency simply on your hand and under your skin through an RFID chip. That's where they're going with it. That's what it means by this underlying technology. It goes on and says this: the order lays out a national policy of digital assets across 6 key priorities. Notice the key priorities: consumer and investor protection. Protection against what? Financial stability. Financial stability from what? Illicit finance. Oh, and this is part of the thing. Well, there's no under the table things anymore. The drug cartels, they'll be put out of business now, and all these shady deals of that are being done with just simply cash, it's all going to be eliminated, and so it's going to eliminate crime. No, it won't. The crime syndicates and the cartels will find a way to go on the black market. That's all they do. What this is really about is not about capturing illicit finance. If they wanted to stop the drugs in America, they could, but they don't want to. The issue of illicit finance really has to do with, we're going to give you a fake thing that's going to solve illicit finance, and really what it's about is the ability to control everything you buy and sell. That's all. The black market criminals will still do the black market. Simple as that. But again, they're going to sell it like this. Oh, it's for your security, financial stability, and illicit finance to stop crime, right? And it goes on: U.S. leadership in global financial systems and economic competitiveness, financial inclusion, and responsible innovation, it says. Well, I talked about the leadership thing and being part of the global system, but let's talk about financial inclusion and what that means. Financial inclusion, if you understand where that comes from, is the idea that we want all peoples of the entire world to be involved in this financial system. We don't want anyone excluded. No, what it means is they want to do the buying and selling, track the buying and selling of every individual on this planet. That's what inclusion means. And then through inclusion, by having everybody, then they can redistribute wealth through the digital currency. So they're going to take from the wealthy countries and give it to third world countries. And the idea is that since you can't bring the poorer countries up, you must bring the leading countries and the richer countries down. So what they're going to do is target the West, Canada, United States, Australia, Europe, all these, bring our wealth down, redistribute it out to third world countries or whatever, and bring them up, and so everyone will be on a level playing field. So everyone will simply be poor, is the idea. But that's what they mean by financial inclusion. We're going to bring people, the countries like America and Canada down, redistribute their wealth, and bring these other third world countries, so everyone will be on a Marxist, communist, equal plane. That's the idea. And then again, responsible innovation, again, all that is talking about a chip they're going to implant in everybody. That's all that is. And notice in that last section, it talked about responsible innovation, okay? It's not just simply the chip and everything, but responsible innovation, what it means is this, that we're going to base how we deal with you and your buying and selling based on your ESG score or your diversity, inclusion, equity score. Okay, so ESG, as we've talked about it before, means E is environmental. Are you for saving the planet and going green? Okay. S is for social. Do you accept the social values of the Whore of Babylon, basically? Are you pro-LGBT, pro-transgender, pro this, pro that, pro-critical race theory, pro, all the stuff that they've been throwing out at us? And then governance is that do you have representation in your company and in your investments or whatever, where you include other special groups into your businesses, in your board meetings, in your investments, that it's diverse, that you have a representation here, representation here, representation here. It's the ultimate basically in affirmative action, but it also includes affirmative action for LGBT and transgenderism, okay? So you gotta have X amount of transgenderism on your board, you gotta have X amount of gays and lesbians on your board, and you have X amount of this, X amount of that, okay? And that's what it refers to. Now here's the thing. If you don't have these things, if you're not going green, if you're not accepting the values of the Whore of Babylon, if you're not practicing affirmative action on hyperdrive, and you're not for equity and inclusion and diversity. So then your ESG score and all these scores will go down. Your social credit score will go down. And that's where the responsible innovation comes in, to where they will tell you what you can buy and sell based on your social credit score, like in China. That's what that means. It goes on and says that specifically the executive order that Biden signed calls for measures to, first one is, the order also encourages regulators to ensure sufficient oversight and safeguard against any systemic financial risk posed by digital assets. Basically is this: we are going to have these overlords continue to watch and monitor what people do and how they buy and sell. We'll run algorithms and we'll know what people are doing in their purchasing habits and what they're buying. And we'll have oversight, because that oversight will then give them insight to how you buy things, how you don't, and they will try to manipulate your purchasing by saying, hey, look, man, you spent so much on gas, you spent too much this month, we're going to stop your buying of gas because you overspent your limit. Or you've bought too much meat this week, we're going to stop that and limit that to you. So that's what you have to be aware of when they're doing oversight. The other issue they want is to promote equitable access to safe and affordable financial services by affirming the critical need for safe and affordable and accessible financial services as a U.S. national interest that must inform our approach to a digital asset innovation, including disparate impact risk. Such safe access is especially important for communities that have long had insufficient access to financial services. And again, what does this mean? Again, it's the idea that we're going to take money and redistribute it to other people that we deem are at risk. Okay, so we're going to take this money, tax the fire out of somebody, so we can give it to these certain communities, not only in the United States, but this is global. And again, like I'm saying, they're going to raise the money in other communities, other third world countries, but take it away from us. So when they say communities that have long had insufficient access to financial services, what that means is we're going to give a bunch of freebies to the rest of the world while we steal the wealth of other people. And then it goes on and says this: to explore a U.S. central bank digital currency by placing urgency on research and development of a potential United States central bank digital currency. Well, there you go. Now they're telling you we're going to create a central bank digital currency in the United States. It's going to regulate all this. But eventually this goes to a global central bank digital currency. That's where it's heading. And it goes on and says, should the issuance be deemed in the national interest? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to tell us this is in the national interest because they are destroying our economy for this. This is why when President Biden got in, he signed things into order that stopped our energy independence, and now we're dying because of economically, because we don't make our own energy anymore. Under Trump, we did. We cut off the Keystone Pipeline. We're pumping more money into the currency, into our economy, which creates hyperinflation. And so it's going to get so bad. The pricing will get so bad, they're going to say, look, guys, this is in the national interest. And then we're up to I think it's a $30 trillion debt ceiling. They're going to say, we owe too much. We've got to do a great reset of our economy. And this is in our national interest. And that's how they're going to sell it. That's what they're saying here. They're telegraphing that to us. And it goes on and says, the order directs the U.S. government to assess the technological infrastructure and capacity needs for a potential U.S. central bank digital currency in a manner that protects America's interests. So again, they're going to say, we're giving the funding to this. Whatever it takes, we're going to provide all the funding to create the technological infrastructure for this. So it'll be worldwide, it'll be nationwide first, and then it'll go global second. But they've got to get the money. So where are they going to get the money? Well, they can either print it off or they can tax you and I to get the money to build this infrastructure, because there will be no more change or cash that's exchanged anymore. So they've got to have the mechanisms all over the United States to get this to happen, and that's going to cost billions and billions and billions of dollars. So they'll just send up a bill asking for a bunch of money to save the economy, and that's what will get approved. That's how they're going to do it. It continues on and says the order also encourages the Federal Reserve. Now, here's the funny thing. The Federal Reserve is neither federal nor is it a reserve. It is an independent entity that got created in 1913. It is the monster that was created on Jekyll Island. And the Federal Reserve is our enemy. Anyway, they include them, right, to continue its research, development, and assessment efforts of the U.S. central bank digital currency, including development of a plan for broader U.S. government action in support of their work. So they're going to include the Federal Reserve. And that's a warning flag. And of course, they're going to include them because these people are evil, what they're doing. And the Federal Reserve is the one who controls our money supply and what they're doing. So it's a pretty scary group that they're including. Anyway, it goes on and says this effort prioritizes U.S. participation in multi-country experimentation. Notice what they said. We're going to start it here, and then we're going to go to a multi-country experimentation, which maybe we'll do a Canadian, U.S., and Mexico currency, perhaps. But they're going to include other countries as an experimentation. Okay, so once they experiment and they say, okay, it's working, then where do they go from that? They go to global. That's where all of this is heading. So they're going to start nationally, then regionally, and then globally. And that's what, again, they tell you what they're doing. This is the funny thing about evil people. Evil people will always tell you what they're doing. And that's what's happening here. It goes on and says this, the administration will continue to work across agencies and with Congress to establish policies that guard against risks and guide responsible innovation. There's that word responsible innovation, ESG, diversity, inclusion, equity, all that stuff, right? With our allies and partners to develop aligned international capabilities. We're gonna go beyond the United States to international capabilities that respond to national security risks, and with private sector to study and support technological advances in digital assets. You know what they're saying here is we're all going to get together. All these countries are going to get together, and then when there's a national security risk to all the countries, we're going to act. So just like today, what they're doing with Russia, you're watching the Great Reset, you're watching the globalists, and every corporation and country that's aligned with globalism shut the economic system down for Russia. And again, no one's a fan of Russia or Putin, but no one's a fan of the globalists and what they're doing. But what the globalists are showing you through their ability to shut things off economically is this is how they will respond to people that don't play ball. They will just shut them down economically, whether that's a business, whether that's a person, whether that's a country. They will have the ability, if they go to a digital currency, to be able to shut the water off, so to speak, of their economics. That's what they're trying to do to Putin right now. And Putin is not going to be stopped, obviously, but they're showing how they're going to deal with countries that pose security risks to their system of globalism. That's what they're saying here. So in concert with Biden signing an executive order to start and establish a digital currency for America, he is also now using the rhetoric of the globalists as well. Now, we've known he's used a statement, Build Back Better, for his campaign, and that comes from, the World Economic Forum, the UN, and the globalists. But just recently, he came out with a statement that he mentioned at a business roundtable meeting, and he talked about creating a new world order. Now, again, we've seen other politicians and other world leaders use this phrase, but this phrase now is becoming common vernacular for these global elites. And they use it like there's no tomorrow. We've seen it with people in Australia and people in New Zealand and all over, these leaders saying we're going to a new world order. Well, now the President of the United States is using it. We know George Bush has used it in the past. And so now here we are, and they're telegraphing to us where they are going. Now, we in the prophecy world, we used to talk about this all the time. And we would be called the conspiracy nuts for saying this. If that's not what they meant. But now it is what they mean. A new world order means global government. So watch this video of Joe Biden using the phrase New World Order.
I think this presents us with some significant opportunities to make some real changes. You know, we are at an inflection point, I believe, in the world economy. Not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it, and we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it.
So as you saw in the video, when Biden says we're at an inflection point, he says, and I believe in the world economy. Now, what he means by that, by this inflection point, is that this inflection point is called the Great Reset that we have been talking about, which means that what they're forming with a digital currency in order to do this is a global corporate fascism. And this is what we call 21st century fascism. And it's going to solve all these crises in the world. And the way to get to it is to establish a digital currency. And Biden goes on to say, a general told me 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we've established a liberal world order. And it hasn't happened in a long while. And he goes, a lot of people died, but nowhere near the chaos. Okay, so what he is saying is that it's been from between 1900 and 1946 through World War I, World War II, that they were establishing this liberal world order. And that people had died because of it, trying to establish it. But now, today, even though a lot of people died, it's nowhere near the chaos that the world is at this point in time. And so, the new world order, this liberal world order, will be ushered in to solve all the chaos, all the crises that are going on in the world. That was what he was trying to establish. And you're thinking, what chaos? Well, a lot of the chaos, a lot of the crises has been simply made up by them. And what are these crises? Well, the hoax of global warming crisis, they call it climate crisis. Or how about inequity crisis? That people need to have the same outcomes economically, which is crazy Marxism, socialism. Or how about the economic crisis that we're facing that they created by modern monetary theory, by printing off more money and creating hyperinflation? Or how about the racism crisis in America that they drummed up through critical race theory? Or how about the crisis of the Trump supporters, that populism crisis we gotta solve. We can't allow Trump supporters to have their way. Or how about the energy crisis that they created by stopping drilling, stopping fracking, stopping oil and gas, and making us dependent on other rogue countries like Venezuela and Saudi Arabia and places like that, when we have our own energy here through gas and oil. It's insane, but they are the ones who create these crises, and then they come in with a solution, and the solution is global governance. That's what Satan does, right? Satan starts a fire, and then he comes to your door knocking and saying, well, I have a fire extinguisher to put out the fire. So that's how evil works. It creates and manufactures crises so that it can come in and solve it. And the way they're going to solve it is we're going to go to a digital currency to combat all these issues. And Biden went on to say, and he goes, now is the time when things are shifting and there's going to be a new world order out there. And we've got to lead it, he said. We've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So he's already telling you what he's going to do. He's telling you where America's going, and no one's going to stop this. It's like what Henry Kissinger said a long time ago. He said the new world order cannot happen without the U.S. participation in it. He says America is the single most significant component, and he was right. That's what the prize was to destroy America and its society, the greatest nation, the greatest economy in world history and on earth. America was the prize. And if you can take down America and make America go global, then the rest of the world will go along with it. And that's why the target has been America. And so, through this digital currency that they're proposing and will implement soon, it will give global power to the technocratic elites with basically no interference from individual countries, legislation, rules of governance, or even a nation's leader. Basically, the elites will get global control over the world's monetary system. And as you know, the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, all kinds of evil, and that's what will happen. Many, many evils will come from this. The first evil will come is what they will destroy liberty. Because the globalists don't trust people with liberty. They don't want them with having liberty. They want them to be enslaved. So they're going to strip people through the economic system of individual rights and freedoms and they're going to say, well, this is economically for the collective good. We're going to take away some of your rights and freedoms for the collective good economically. That's what equity is about, is making everyone have the same outcome. We're not talking about equal opportunity. We're talking about equal outcome. And in order to get equal outcome, they have to limit your rights and freedoms economically. Furthermore, the elites will then decide what is in the best interest for the collective, not the individual, but for the collective. And basically then force businesses to act in a way that is in concert with this globalist narrative. Whether it's, corporate fascism, ESG, diversity, inclusion, equity, all of that, all these leftist ideas will be brought into the economic system, and this is how businesses will have to function, and this is how individuals will have to function. They will control the economy. It will not be a free market. They will tell you what you can buy and sell. It will allow them to consolidate all power to just a few elites of the world, a ruling class basically over the entire globe. And they're going to make massive amounts of money from this as they steal nations and people's wealth and then control it. It'll be wealth beyond their wildest dreams. And this is predicted with the merchants and kings of the earth who do a deal with the whore of Babylon to get her wealth. And you can see that in Revelation 17 and Revelation 18. It's wealth beyond anyone's wildest dreams. And through it, one of the evils that will come from this is they will be able to control the health of the world. When you control the economies of the world, you can control the health of the world. What people are allowed to get health-wise, what they're not allowed to get. You will not be able to get medicines under the table, so to speak, because they will control your buying and selling. So if they don't want you to have certain medicines, you won't be allowed to have that. They will only allow certain things that they want health-wise. So this goes into a very evil practice of even soft euthanasia. They will take the power globally out of the hands of a nation's citizens. And we will not have the ability to make decisions anymore. They will make all the decisions because they believe they are gods and can make those decisions for us. Humans, to them, are nothing but cattle to be herded up and prodded along. We're expendable, we're disposable to them. They don't look at us as made in the image of God. We basically are just another brick in the Babylonian tower, and once that brick is cracked or broken, they'll just replace that brick with another one. That's how they look at human beings. They will destroy national sovereignty with this global currency. The governments will take care of everything, not just nationally, but they will take care of it globally. And basically what we're going to return to is kind of like a feudal system where we don't own anything. They own the land, they own everything, and they tell us what to do. In their system, there is no individualism and there's no individual rights, just the collective rights that they deem are important. Furthermore, other evils will ensue from this. They will basically just go around the Second Amendment in the United States. If you control the buying and selling, then you can control the buying and selling of guns and ammo. That's how they're going to get away with it. So in destroying the free market capitalistic economic system and going to a corporate fascism, global corporate fascism, they're going to talk about stakeholder capitalism. It's basically stakeholder capitalism, nothing but Chinese capitalism, crony capitalism, collectivist capitalism, and that we know those terms, and those terms are abusive forms of capitalism. They're not centered in morality, right? Chinese capitalism is slave labor, as you know, and that's what it'll turn into. So they have fascism, but they are going to incorporate this kind of Chinese capitalism in it. So anyway, that's what you'll see, and you'll see the government then merge into business, and that's what we call corporate fascism. They'll merge together. And with this stakeholder capitalism, that these businesses must focus on meeting the needs of not stockholders, but stakeholders. So they must redistribute their earnings to what the government wants them to redistribute it to. If that's saving the planet, if that's fighting racism, if that's whatever existential threat it is, they have to do that. So if it's like we have an enemy nation, a rogue nation that won't comply, then we'll just cut off all the economics to that nation. That's how they work. They'll just shut you out economically. Therefore, companies that want to be involved in this system will be compelled and allowed to exist as long as they operate according to the goals of the Great Reset. If you don't comply, then you're out of the system. You're put out of business. And of course, they'll dress it up nice and say, hey, we just want to save the planet. We want to end racism, and it'll be all nice. And we're not about profit. We're about public interest and sustainability. But really what that is fascism, global control. That's what that is. It sounds nice, public interest, sustainability. But really what it's about is total control of everything. And as you know, you have heard them say they're going to abolish private property by 2030 and establish what they call a circular economy. And in this circular economy, you own nothing, okay? And basically what they do in a circular economy is cheap products are made from recyclables, and then they are rented out, and then when you're done with them, you turn them back in to be recycled, and they're made into more cheap products. It's a very utilitarian notion of products. So basically what they're going to go to is no nice things or like collectibles or anything of value, nothing of value. Only what is needed will you be able to buy. It's basically the death of having nice things and even the death of shopping. The elites will tell business owners what to make, what to sell, how much to sell it at, and when to make it. They control the supply and demand. And then these globalist organizations like the UN, like the World Economic Forum, will be weaponized to govern all private businesses. And if you study the Great Reset and you go to their website, they talk about that, about wanting to integrate like a UN task force into our government, into the governments of the world. And this UN task force will basically become a government auditor on businesses that require assessment and disclosure of potential financial impacts. And business owners basically will have no choice. And so in a short amount of time, they could put anyone out of business that doesn't comply with their pollution requirements or their carbon footprint requirements or their critical race theory requirements or their LGBT requirements of governance. So if you fail to comply, then banks won't loan you any money. You'll lose your insurance. You won't have a business license. And basically they'll put you out of business. And furthermore, big businesses will be the monopoly. Like the Coca-Cola, like the Home Depot, like the Lowe's. There will be no more mom and pop shops of locally owned businesses. It will be just chains. And because of that, they can control that. And that's what they want. So they're going to put the mom and pop stores and the locally owned businesses out of business because they won't be able to comply with ESG requirements. They won't be able to comply with all the environmental carbon footprint things that they require, the inclusion, the diversity, all of that stuff, equity. They won't be able to comply. And just what will be left will be big businesses, chain restaurants, things like that. That's where it's going with a digital currency. So with all that being said, you and I are watching the setup of what will happen in the tribulation. That's how close we are. And you know the passage, it's Revelation 13, 16 through 17. And it says, he causes all, this is a false prophet, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now that's future, but it's in the near future apparently because the system is being set up. Okay, we won't be here for the tribulation, but we sure enough watching the setup of all this. Again, it's some of it's quite frightening. Some of it's kind of a bittersweet because that means we're getting closer to seeing the Lord, right, in the rapture. But we are seeing the setup, and I don't know how much more setup we will see. And like I've always said, the closer the rapture is to the tribulation, the more setup we're going to see. And that's what's happening. Now, what are the implications? Well, the implication is, obviously, if we're still around and we haven't been raptured, our economy is going to go to a digital currency. And you and I will experience that. And we can experience that even before the tribulation. Because, again, we won't be here for the tribulation. But the setup is happening. So it appears that many, many things that were prophesied for the tribulation have a setup period that are pre-tribulational. And you and I are now, I guess you want to say, privileged at the same time. And it's kind of bittersweet to watch all this go down. But we're seeing this happen in our lives, and it's going to affect us. It's going to affect us. If we have to live through a digital currency, how will we deal with it? Well, I can tell you this. People have asked me many times, what do I do with my money? I can tell you this. You're going to have to turn it in eventually and trade your cash in for digital assets. That's how it works. You say, well, do I go buying gold and silver? Yeah, but eventually if you're going to use that gold and silver in a digital currency, you're going to have to turn that in too. See, they have us trapped. That's the thing. They have us trapped. There's really no way out of it. And so what ends up happening is in a digital currency, they will be able to control your buying and selling. So the thing you see in Revelation 13 about the beast controlling the buying and selling, the control of the buying and selling will happen even pre-tribulational. Because I can tell you right now, if they get their way and they stick on us these globalist values, these Babylonian values, like, hey, we don't eat meat type of thing, right? They already say they want to limit our beef intake, our meat intake. And so isn't it funny that Paul warns Timothy about this, that in the latter days, they're going to forbid people to eat meat. And that will be the churches pushing this. So I see that coming. So they're going to be able to control what kind of food you eat. And then they're going to say, as far as your energy consumption, how much energy you could run. Hey, you're running your house too hot. You're running your house too cold in the summertime. We will tell you how to run your heat because we'll base it on the digital credits you have. And then sometimes they can force you in a digital currency what to buy. They'll say, we're going to give you these credits, but these credits have to be spent by the end of the month. And you can only buy X, Y, and Z. So they will force you with a digital currency to buy certain things, buy certain products. And so it's a complete loss of freedom, a complete loss of your privacy. So yeah, that's all going to happen. And now we're seeing an executive order being signed in. It's not law yet, but it's going there. Okay, so then what am I supposed to do? Well, you're really going into a situation where we're trapped. That's what we're heading into, okay? Now, yeah, we could be raptured right now and avoid all of this, but if we don't, and the rapture's close to the tribulation, you're going to have to experience this. You're going to lose a lot of your economic wealth. You have to understand that. They're not going to sell you digital currency from $1 to $1 in a digital currency. They're planning to sell you a digital dollar for $1.50 of your money. So you will pay more to get this digital currency. That means it's going to lower your value. If they start doing major shifts by taxing people, and you will not be able to avoid taxes because all you have to do is go into your digital currency account and take whatever taxes they want, take those taxes and redistribute to the people they want it to do. You will not be able to avoid taxes. And so they will tax everybody like this. So your economic system is going to go down, or your personal economic system is going to go down. Your retirement's going to go down. Your purchasing power is going to go down. And you're going to be limited to what you can buy, what you can sell. That's how this works. Okay, so you say, well, that doesn't give me much hope. But here's where the hope is. Every time you see the biblical characters in Scripture and they get trapped in a situation that they can't get out of, whether it's in the Exodus when they get trapped at the Red Sea, or whether it's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, or it's in Daniel in the lion's den, or it's Peter being put in jail. What you will see is that the biblical characters put into a no-win situation. They're put into a landlocked situation. There's no place to go. And that's kind of how we are. We're running from Pharaoh right now. And we're through the mountain caverns, and Pharaoh's bearing down on us. And here's Nueva Beach, where the Red Sea crossing is going to happen. We're getting onto that beach, and then when we look north and we look south, there's nowhere to go. And we look ahead, there's only water. We're moving into a situation where we're trapped. But what's the key in that? The key is, in all those situations with those biblical characters, God came in at the last minute and delivered them from it. Somehow made them be able to survive. Whether that was this Red Sea parting, whether that was taming the lions and closing their mouths, or whether that was Jesus appearing in the fiery furnace and not letting the fire burn Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Either way, he provides a way out, a way of escape, a way of deliverance. Now that deliverance might be the rapture, maybe, or it could be something else. Because people say, well, what are my options? I don't know at this point in time. What we have to do is just trust the Lord until we get there. And once we get there, you have to trust that He will provide a way of escape somehow. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I wish I could. But we'll know when we get there. God's just saying, look, be aware of this and trust me through this, that I will make a way out for you somehow, some way. Then we might go to digital currency, but He'll show us how to adapt and survive in that world. So don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep. Be aware of it's happening, and just be prepared when they put this into fruition and they bring it to fruition. It will affect us. So either way, God will take care of us. He will provide for us. It may not be the provision you have right now. It might be less. Remember, when He led Israel out of Egypt, they had a lot of things in Egypt that they had to give up, the leeks and the onions and the comfort and all that stuff, but they were leaving slavery to freedom. Now remember, He took them to freedom, but where were they at? In the wilderness. Now, the wilderness is not like Egypt. It's harsher, but at least in the wilderness, you're free. So he may lead us to the wilderness out of Egypt, but remember, that wilderness will be a little bit harsh, but at least you and I will be free. So, from that point, we'll just wait and see what he does. And that's all we can do. We'll trust and see what happens. So with that being said, that brings us to our conclusion today. Just reminders, make sure you have a BitChute account now. Make sure you have a Rumble account, because that seems to be the two platforms that won't take us down. And YouTube is unreliable. Sometimes we can put messages on there, sometimes we can't. But make sure you have those two platforms, BitChute and Rumble. And then also be praying for us. We get a lot of attacks from online, even local. We get a lot of attacks. And so we need all the prayers we can get. And also, if you could help us out financially, that would be greatly appreciated. We're in the midst of building our building, and we're in the midst of expanding our ministry. We started out a very small church, and now we're starting to grow, but we need a lot more finances because of the growth and things that God is doing in our church life. We still got to pay the bills and be able to expand our ministry. And we want to keep the online ministry going. This is vital for you out there. Many of you tell us that. We see it as a priority, and we're going to make it a priority. So if you want to help us out in that regard, you can. And again, you can give to our general offering, you can give to our building fund, or whatever you want to deem. We would appreciate the financial help and the prayerful support. That being stated, remember what the Lord said. When you see these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. God bless you. We'll see you next time.